everybody, welcome to Starting Lineup for round 33 here on MLSsoccer.com. Josh Whisenhunt joined here by Andrew Wiebe, getting you guys ready for the weekend. As you can tell, no Jason Sagini for the second week in a row. Jason is sick, busy, something like that. So, sorry, Sags, I'm taking your place. Like we said, round 33, we're getting fired up. We got Friday games coming, so make sure you set your lineups tomorrow at the very latest. Let's launch into questions right away. Andrew, this one comes from Adam Shea on Twitter. Talking DC United, actually. Will the DC United defense be flying high for this weekend, or are they just still crushing Bud Lights in the locker room after that U.S. Open Cup victory?
Well, I think it's a mirage. They're not going to be flying high. Look, they got the 1-0 win. They packed it in. They got the shutout. But in MLS play, they haven't had a shutout since early July, so don't bet on it in this case either. I don't think anybody on that team, aside from perhaps Perry Kitchen as a bargain play in the midfield, is a good bet for you. Now, Mike McGee, he's a big guy going up against this weekend. I know a lot of you probably own him as well. Yep. I would hold on to him, but look, DC much better at home than they are on the road. So while I don't predict a shutout, it's not a great bet. You're going to see 2-goal Mike McGee pop up in this one. Probably still going to be behind DeVio in that Golden Boot race. And if we're talking about U.S. Open Cup hangovers, well, Real Salt Lake has got a heck of a headache this one. I think they're going to be fine, though. 3 games left. They know they've got to win those. They're at the top of the Western Conference right now. But look, they've played the most games in the West. They've got to hold position. We've had some questions about, hey, will Javi Morales start? Will Nick Rimando start? They're going to start. Look, they got to win those games. They got to get ready for the playoffs. Those guys will be in the lineup.
All right, you heard it there first from Andrew. Maybe pump the brakes on DC United a little bit. They got a tough matchup against Mike McGee and a desperate Chicago Fire side this weekend. You can loosen it up a little bit on RSL. They'll probably be back. They'll probably be a little bit angry. Put some good numbers up this weekend as well. Moving right along, Andrew, this is a topic that has come up throughout the season, and it's honestly one that probably some MLS fantasy managers hate to deal with, but it's the fact of the matter. We have another international break looming. And
not just them, though. Bruce Arena doesn't like it either. I'm sure we'll hear about that as well.
Yeah, but Bruce probably has his own fantasy team that he works.
Tinkers a bit.
That's his side gig. Yeah. But it seems like this guy's name always comes up, and this is a question here from Jeff Sinclair. It's a question about Diego Valeri. Now, when these international breaks come along, it seems like Valeri is kind of that money guy that you go to because he's not going anywhere. And of course, we all know his abilities. So Jeff wants to know, even with the break coming up, obviously we don't know Valeri's injury status. Is it worth keeping him anyway?
Yeah, I think you keep him. Look, if you're one of those people that picked him up at 7.5, you stand to lose $0.7 million in that transaction. Sure, you'll pick up 3.5, but not really worth it at this time. The adductor strain is the issue. He's had it since the end of August, though, and in the 4 games since he picked that up against Real Salt Lake, 29 points. Look, he still produces, and it doesn't matter if he starts or comes off the bench. So I think you keep a hold of that guy. You make sure he's in your lineup. If he doesn't play, have the good option on the bench. That always is going to be the right play, I think, through the end of the season with Diego Valeri producing. But the big issue here, you mentioned it, international call-ups. Those really have the potential to gut your team ahead of the stretch run here. Stay away from those U.S. players. We don't know the roster yet for Jamaica and Panama, but that will come out this weekend. They'll be around this weekend. They will not be around the next 2 weeks, and perhaps even the one after that. So be prepared for that. Your Eddie Johnsons, Graham Zusis, Landon Donovans, Omar Gonzalez, some of the big names in fantasy, not guys to pick up at this time. And then you look around CONCACAF and the rest of the world, too. Robbie Keane, speaking of LA and Bruce Arena, he's probably not going to be around with the Republic of Ireland. And then you've got some other players mixed around. Your Blas Perez in FC Dallas. He's a great forward play that you don't want to pick up right now. And then the Honduran contingent. We'll have all those on the site. But for now, when you are making transfers, ask yourself a question. Is this guy going to get called up for international duty? And if he is, he's not a guy to pick up.
Stay away from those guys as we head into the next 2 weeks. Now, Andrew, we talked about this international break, some international matches going on, but round 34, there still are a couple MLS games, but there's a ton of buys. So give us the lowdown on that.
Yeah, a lot of buys coming here. Chivas, Columbus, LA, New York, RSL, and Toronto all on bye weeks. But a double week from Seattle, so that's one you want to latch into. I think looking at the fact that probably no Clint Dempsey, probably no Eddie Johnson because of international duty, Lamar Nagel is you got to pick up Lamar Nagel. I mean, you would be an idiot not to.
You are kidding me if you don't pick up Lamar Nagel.
It's a question of questions we have for you if you don't. Obafemi Martins also, we've seen that partnership really work wonders. But with all those bye weeks, consider that. Okay, you know what? I said you need a second question when you make transfers. You need a third question. Skip ahead. Make sure you're not picking up all bye-week players, because if you get to that week and you got to take -12, -15 just to field the squad, you are in a hole already.
All right, well, we got a follow-up from our boy Jeff Sinclair here, who's just dominating this show. I think he'll probably get a trial spot
You're
ahead
probably gonna move up
ahead
right
of
there
Sagini next week. Sorry, Jason. Jeff is in. Jeff wants to know, all right, so besides Lamar Nagel, obviously, who's a must-have, any of these other Seattle guys, who are your top picks with an eye for round 34?
Well, I think you look at Portland, I think Maximiliano Urruti is a great pickup. Ryan Johnson for Jamaica not going to be there. It seems like Urruti has earned that spot anyway. We talked about Valeri. I think he's a good pickup for you on the forward line. Chris Wondolowski, he won't be with the U.S. It's about that time for Wando. You know he gets hot late in the season. San Jose is desperate for his goals. I think he probably delivers for you. Will Bruin, another guy that's getting hot late on here. They play Kansas City, but a nice game after that. Good matchups coming up. He is scoring. No Boniek, perhaps no Brad Davis. That could affect your decision there, so maybe he is one to sit on. And then finally, Montreal, you want to set yourself up for round 35. They have a double week. For them, I think it's the three obvious ones: Hassoun Kamara, Marco Di Vaio, and then Patrice Bernier. Those are their three horses in fantasy, and those are the guys you should probably look at if you're going to go to Montreal.
All right, look at one more follow-up to round 34. Any teams that you should avoid, even though not many are playing?
Vancouver. Look, it was embarrassing last week, and I don't see them recovering extremely quickly.
Wiebe is calling you out, Vancouver.
I am. In a fantasy sense, certainly. We've talked about it a lot this season. Not a lot going on for them in defense. Not a ton in the midfield, and Camilo in and out of the starting lineup. Kenny Miller injured. I think they're one to avoid going forward.
All right, well, there it is. Wiebe lays out the next 3 weeks for you, all nice and tidy, wrapped up in a bow. You are good to go for this weekend, and you're good to go for the foreseeable future. Andrew, thank you so much. For all of us here at MLSsoccer.com, this has been Starting Lineup. We will talk to you guys next Tuesday.